See the blank in you, just as looking outside. See the blank in you, all is gonna outside. Just one way.
Because I need to strip the audio from that. Yeah. Cool. So today, number 4, numero quattro, as they say in France. In France. Okay, not quite. We're going to. Oh yeah, new font. Let me know what you think about that later, privately. Cool. So tonight, we're going to talk about System 1 and System 2 from Thinking Fast and Slow. Daniel Kahneman, super nice. And we'll talk about those systems. We're just going to touch on System 1 and 2, not really go into it, and just talk about conflicts. And that'll be our segue to how to structure better decision making and how to get in different modes of thinking and when to do the different modes. And I'll just introduce you to something called the double diamond process for for problem solving decision making. And then the last thing is pretty much just me copying the words from like Sheena, who on a Hidden Brain episode talked about choices. So I thought, decision making, it's obviously about choices, and we'll talk about choice paradox and a few other things with choices and what is good and bad and how to think about that. Cool. Now, how does that make you think? Yeah. So what was the first? Should I actually prepare you for this? Consent. What was the first thing that came into your mind when you saw that image?
Is that?
Piss drunk. Who is that? No, you felt disgusted. It was like, oh, that's fucked up. Yeah.
Well, what state is he in?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So this is something where you get from System 1. So it's immediate reaction to an image, and you can't help it. I could say, don't feel disgusted when I show you this, but when you see it, you'll get disgusted. So Amy, you get scared quite easily. Yeah. So you have a very strong System 1.
Yeah.
That just, when someone scares you, frightens you, you're like, wow. We could go to System 2. So who can solve this for me? But this is System 2. You know this is a complex question. You know that it will take some time to figure it out. You also know what could be an answer, right? Like 50 million is not an answer, and 3 is not an answer. So you have a feeling, you have your System 1 can intuit and figure out what is possible, but the only way to solve this is by using System 2. And that's more complex.
Totally
You're like, 12,986.
Yeah, I just like whispered a number.
So this is System 1. We already talked about it a bit. It's involuntary, you cannot help it. It's fast, it's like straight up, and it's pretty much most of all the decisions we'll make is in this mode of thinking. And you can get it from anyone. And it's usually very reactive. It's very, whatever's happening in the world, they just get it straight away. And it could also be described as your gut feeling. So it's the first thing off the bat, what you feel. What System 1 is good at is comparing objects and distances. It's simple connotations, it's hostility in voice, it's driving a car. I think it's maybe snowboarding. It's definitely related to flow. It's wherever it's just happening. When I go trail running, I just run on the trails and like pitter patter, moving. For some reason, my feet, I can know when to put them and where to put them and how much force I can take before they slide on the rocks and whatnot. I don't need to think about it. It's completely System 1. So System 1 is a big part of us, and a lot of other organisms are mainly running on System 1. But we also have System 2 is voluntary. So you actually have to use it and will it to use it. Most of the time it's there in the background, like heaps chill and like low resource mode, but it takes a lot of resources. And it's probably like higher complex thinking is probably work. It's probably analysis. It's wherever you have iterations. And they've actually also found that you also use it when you're doing physical activities. So you're doing something like near your like max limit, you're using this part of your brain. Have you ever noticed when you're maybe exercising or you're talking to someone while you're exercising, you can't quite talk? Not because you're out of breath, but you can't think to talk. You're like, they're like asking you questions, and you're like, oh, I just can't. I don't have enough room in my head for this. And so that's pretty much system 2 getting paralyzed because it's using its energy to do some physical activity and not to like think about complex problems. Colloquially call it paying attention. Like, pay attention when you do this. It requires effort. And it's really difficult because anything really that is complex can fall into the system. And you could maybe say it's the higher reasoning powers of humans. So whereas most animals are running on system 1, and they're very reactive, we have this system 2 built on top of system 1. And so it's anything where you need to, time to make decisions. If you hear anyone say, let me think about it, let me come back to you, it means they're employing system 2. It doesn't mean they're in system 1 where it's impulse buying or, things like that. Now this is actually, burgeoning sport, chess, boxing, and it's a real thing. So they do 1 round of boxing, 1 round of chess, and it's like, it's recorded, it's in stadiums. Yeah.
Wait, so 1 round of chess is like a full game or just like 1 move each?
No, I think it's a few moves each. I don't think they do 10 rounds of boxing, but maybe 6 to 8, and they aim it so the chess game should appropriately finish at that point. And that's why it's funny, because you'd think that these are different systems, but they're both on system 2. So it's not, they're going from physical exertion system 2 to high complex problem solving system 2. So it's not like they're going from one to the other and seeing how good they are either at 1 or 2. To maybe hedge against that, they actually find that like chess masters, when they're playing chess, they're in system 1. So you could get a chess master and be like, you could just like straight up, just like when we see numbers, we know that they are numbers, or we see a drunken, fucked up Carlo. And so when they see, and you just go up to them like, pow, with like a little shot of like where all the things are, they'll immediately have a feeling, intuition of where the next move should be. They'll of course have system 2 to reason it, but a lot of it is just speed chess. It's just a feeling and a flow, just like you driving a car. Here it's interesting. Do you want to like I'm sure there are some players that are like smash them silly so they can't play chess. And there's some others that just like defense so I can beat them in chess and then see how we go.
Like, give them a concussion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Fuck them up. Oh, you really want to move your queen there? And normally they say, you would hope that your system 1 and your system 2 are quite aligned. So you have both your quick intuitions and your reactions and how you are. A lot of that is sort of bound in your personality and how you act, feeds into your higher thinking. So you'd want those 2 things to be aligned. But of course, quite often they are less than aligned. So you're going to have, quite often you're going to have conflicts between those 2 systems. We're doing the game first. So we're going to do a little exercise where we are going to say whether the word is uppercase or lowercase. Okay? So we're going to say uppercase, lowercase, lowercase, uppercase, uppercase, lowercase, whatever it is. Fast. System 1, right? Bang, 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 bang.
If it's written.
So, you ready? Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Uppercase.
Lowercase.
Lowercase. Uppercase. 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 Lowercase.
Cool. Alright.
Uppercase?
It's your question. All cases. So this is another optical illusion where you're having, so all these lines are straight.
That's weird.
But because our system 1 is in the spatial element, the way that we see spaces, George's like, are you sure? So the way that we process spaces, so they completely, like this line and this line are parallel.
Stop.
Are parallel.
Stop.
They're
Stop.
completely.
Stop.
So if you come here and look, you can see them. They're straight and they're in the same line.
Totally on the wall.
Yeah.
So
It is so weird.
So,
Because
like,
the boxes
all the boxes are
are
the same.
Don't move.
Yeah, the way
like.
don't move it.
They're all moving. They're all moving.
No, they
I
do
don't know
move.
what you two.
They do move for me.
Aye.
Like if you look.
They do move. They do move. They do move. Yeah, they do move.
Can we drop the ball right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like here, when you're like, that can't be straight. That doesn't look straight, and it doesn't look straight, but they are straight.
How
So
does-
your system 2 is saying they are straight, like they're a straight line and they're parallel.
how does that work?
But my
They're so not straight.
I know.
It's so weird.
Poke it out as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They're crazy. But it's really because our system 1 is spatial recognition. And, ask who you want, but I think it's because system 1 evolved when we were mammals and we were, around, hunting, surviving. And so we're really good at seeing space and we interpreted space. And that is so strong in us that we still have that. And so the way that we interpret space is something to do with like the way that these are. And there's also ones where there are 2 pictures and there's like the color of a certain area looks completely darker than the other one because the way that we interpret color is relative, but they're the same color. So there's quite a few of these optical illusions where it's system 1 and 2. Now we're going to do the same exercise, a similar exercise before. And now when you say, just like before, instead of saying uppercase, lowercase, I want you to say left or right. And this is going to be whether the word is on the left side or the right side.
Right. Left. Right.
Left.
Left. Right. Left.
That was actually quite easy. So when I did it, I tried to not look at the words and just look at the space.
Just look at like one side of it.
Aye.
and it pops
Exactly.
up on that.
Yeah. And that's a way you can override your system 1 by being like, no, the boxes are straight or whatnot. I would put it just back to freak you guys out. Yeah.
Because the more you look at it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't change.
No,
It's like, why? How do I not
Why
realize?
is it?
Like,
Yeah.
Is everyone seeing those lines as curved lines?
Yeah.
Or are they just
I think it depends where you focus.
it depends on someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they'll
Yeah.
change depending on where you look.
But they're all
I mean, that one's definitely curvier than that one, right?
But it depends on.
So this brings us to decisions, how to best make decisions, or how to best problem solve, really. So what do you guys think is the first most important part of solving a problem or making a decision? What's the first thing?
Knowing all the information.
Yes, good. Very good. Knowing information. Yeah. Actually, I think Ryan just fucking hit it straight up.
I've been here before.
Yeah, you. Yeah. Like, we've done this before. Exactly.
Ryan
What did you say, Ryan?
Understanding the problem.
So you really want to focus on defining the problem before you move on to the solution. So as you could imagine, your system 1 will just go, bang, solution mode. Someone will come with a problem, I need this or this and this. You'll just go, your first intuition will just be to solve the problem. Whereas this method, this conceptual framework, says you actually should define what the problem is. So what do you actually need? What's going on? What's the bigger picture? What is the problem that we're trying to figure out here? And here's where you really want to get into divergent thinking and then convergent thinking. So just before like number 3 or number 2, we talked about creativity and how your brain is like the neurons and all the linkings, all the different parts of your brain. You want to get into a state of mode where you're thinking divergently. So you're thinking like with high creativity. So, okay, I have something, a pool that reminds me, I need to have this, swimming gear and a hat. Okay, cool, but divergent would be like, well, what else do I need? Do I need food? Do I need water? Do I need to call someone that I'm away? Do I need to think about all these other things? So there's a whole pool of range that you need to start thinking about divergent. So you sort of care less about putting them together. You're just being full creative mode, right? And then you want to convergently think. So this is where you synthesize everything you've got. So if you think about divergent thinking as like brainstorming, and convergent is like the person in the corner, which is like, so guys, what are we actually going to fucking do? You come up with a lot of ideas. I've written them all down. Which one do we do? And then that's when you're going to rank them, think about how they actually work in the world, what would be better than others and whatnot. And then you go through that both for problem and solution. And both of these modes of thinking use different parts of the brain. So one is just like searching and looking for different things, and the other one is really to categorize and to understand and see where they're at comparative to each other. I don't know if you guys experience this, but sometimes I've been in the phases where like maybe you'll have a problem with the team or with your friends, whatever, and you might get all the way to the end. You might figure out what the actual problem is, you know, oh, we want to do this, but what do we really want to do? Okay, this is the actual problem. Cool, good. And then you find a solution. Okay, this is how we solve it. You can also go here and there and go here and ski there. Okay, cool, got the options. Which is the best? Okay, this will be that one and that has that, a feature. Okay, cool. And then you get near the end, and then some fucking retard starts going like divergent thinking for the problem. Like, is that what we really want, guys? like, why don't we just do this or do that? And so you want to have this sort of, you know, this flow here, this process, just to organize it and just to like be like focused. Like right now we're brainstorming, and then right now we are just trying to hammer down and get it, because the mind works in certain modes and ways, and you want to sort of ride those waves and not be sort of hedging between the two. Yeah. Cool. This is the double diamond. All right. Now we're going to talk about choices. So yeah, maybe.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Is that Freaky Friday?
Yeah.
Sheena and Mark, they did this really cool study back in 2000 where they had sampling booths. So they had like one for one and one for another, both in the same supermarket on different days. And one had 24 jars, and one had 6. So they found that they were more likely to get people to come if there was more jars, because that looks prettier. And they both sampled about the same, but a whole lot less people bought when there was 24 jars out for sure. And they were really trying to like understand and look into where is it, how does our brain interact with choice? Because at least at that point, your sort of fundamentals with economics and everything was more choice the better. And they started to find out that maybe not more choice is better. So they didn't really, it's really hard to find like a magic number. Someone said like 10, there's some numbers been kicking around. But basically you want to have, if you want people to make a choice or to make a commitment to something, less choice is usually better. I don't know if you guys have ever felt overwhelmed by choice.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah. In what fields, what areas?
I got a good tip
Yeah, tell me.
about wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're looking at wine, look for the one that's not got that much, because that must be a good wine.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
That doesn't cost that much.
Of
Or-
course,
No,
aye.
it's
Like if
like sold out
there's like
those.
less bottles, like if it's fully stocked.
Okay.
Like
Herd
bottles,
mentality.
I'll
Yeah.
put
Oh,
it
that's
too.
right.
Okay.
Ah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Take
Okay.
good stuff and there's only one bottle
Interesting.
left.
I do that too.
I
Cool.
don't drink.
Because then you think, well, other people have made this choice, so like clearly
Yeah.
I can't be the
Yeah.
wrong.
All right. Good talking, people. Cool. Good. Really good options.
Really good talking.
Really
people.
good talking, people.
Really.
Really good talking. Good finishing of the talking. I mean, Sham's like this as well, right? There's so many fucking options to do
Yeah.
everything
Aye.
all the time. It's just like
So
there's just so much there.
with the skiing in the winter, it's the hardest thing because like the
that tough?
domains aren't connected.
Yeah.
Double diamond. Double diamond. But why do we really want to ski? Like, what are we really trying to achieve here? Fuck it, we'll leave it. So this is a choice paradox, right? Because like you would intuit that more choice, better, people happier, whatnot. But they've really found that there's been like less well-being from this. So supermarkets, they've been studying supermarkets where there's more choice, whether they increase their range or something, and that just led to like customers like both unable to, not only are they unable to have that choice paralysis and make a decision, but they're like not happy with that choice that they made, right? And basically what they're thinking is behind this, the psychologists, is that it costs brain power to think, to make decisions all the time. And this is system 2. This is like system 2 fucking takes Like, do I want the more fluoride or the more against the cavities? I'm like, I don't know. Tell me what to know. Like, just the one that won't make me have teeth like a homeless people in 30 years. Like, if you put that on the label, I'll buy it. And so, yeah, there's a whole bunch of research out there. I think last thing I read, there was like more than, there was a meta-analysis of 99 choice journal articles.
So basically dating apps are terrible for this.
If you get the choice.
Too much choice.
Yeah, if you get more than one choice. Yeah. One swipe per day.
I get this in the supermarket. I
All the
hate
time.
supermarket shopping. I'm like
Yeah.
so overwhelmed, and there's so much to choose from. I go in with a set list, and I never choose anything different. I get the same veg every week, the same milk. I get everything exactly the same.
Yeah.
How boring is that? I can't cope with that. So I just want to get out.
It's too much effort, too much brain power,
So
right?
much effort.
Yeah, because you can't. I mean, the only time where our system one is good is when we come into the checkout and it's like sweets and candy. So our system one is good in impulses. But if we need to buy a meal for the next day, the day after, system 2 has to come in. Because system 1 is like, holding his dick in his hand like, oh no, you hungry? Chips. Oh, fuck yeah. You want to get drunk? Some beers. But like, that system 1 is so simple. It's like fucking like, I don't know, exchange student. That's when I was most wasted in my life. Clearly from the first photo. And so system 2 takes effort. And so it's just fucking annoying to use effort. Dead child.
It's one of these names.
Yeah, I think it's one of these names. So I was going to. No, we'll go there. I was going to like find a photo of some dead children. Not dead children, of a dead child. But as much. Yeah. And I was like, well, we could hit
like
system 1.
alive, but who is now dead, or like a dead child.
No, either. Well, technically speaking, it shouldn't be dead child. It should be like life support. Child on life support, about to die, probably already brain dead, but physically living. So I know we can put in our minds, think about a dying child, a child that's about to die. And this child is your own child. So you're there, you're in the hospital, and your child's about to die, or it's pretty much brain dead, so it's pretty much already dead. And now this study that they did in 2009, they looked at both, it was France, they compared France against the US, and we're not going to compare cultures, but they compared those two because in France, when the child is on life support, or there's any situation where someone is in that state of health, the doctor, it's actually on the doctor's responsibility to make a decision to take them off life support. Whereas in America, it's hard to make jokes when there's a slide with a dead child behind you. But in America, it's always the custodian, the parent's decision. So they did a side by side study of these two groups, and they found that the Americans who had the decision, they eventually decided the same thing as the French did, right? As the doctors did. But the well-being and the mental health of the parents, the French parents, were far better. They were recovered. They'd gone through it so much better than the Americans. And they interviewed them, and the American parents would say stuff like, oh, like, if only, or what could have been if we didn't, or like, oh, Johnny was so nice. Yeah, and they really held on to it because they had to be the ones that decided to end their son or their daughter's life. Whereas the French parents, they're like, it was more passive. So it was like, well, this accident happened, or this, disease got our child, and that was it. And so they came through, and their overall well-being from that situation was a lot better. So.
Did they interview the French doctors too?
Yeah, but for French doctors, they're trained in a certain way. Super removed. Yeah, they almost desensitize them for empathy. It's quite tough, and they do that in the tests.
Okay.
Because.
But it's also not the doctor alone that will make the decision.
No.
It's a group. It's a group of physicians. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't just be
One
That's
Yeah.
person.
He'll be the head doctor, yeah. And they might, and to be honest, this is France, so there's probably fucking guidelines.
Yeah.
So there could be like, 3 months without brain activity, we pull the plug or whatnot. And I mean, you have stories, and this is why it's fucked up, because you have stories of, in America, someone in coma, brain dead for like 20 years, and then coming back. And it's like, 1 in a million, they're out there, those stories. But that's a really interesting story about, the emotional responses to choice. And this is where, and really interesting fact as well, when they asked the American parents if they would have preferred to not have choice, they never said, never did they decide that they would have preferred to not have choice. So they wanted to have the choice, they got emotionally like fucked up from it, and that's just how it is. I mean, there is cultural stuff for sure, but it's sometimes life can be a bit easier when you give up choice and when it's in the hands of experts on it. Now, why do we think that choices lead us to fucking hate supermarkets and hate toothpaste and hate all this stuff? Why is it? And this meme has something to do with it.
I love this meme.
Fair
This
of
meme,
missing out.
man.
Fair of missing out.
Boom! Boom! Hit it on the nail. He's been here before as well. That's it.
Same team.
That's it. So FOMO. So why is choices lead to FOMO? Basically, when we get choices, we use our imagination, and we can go in and imagine all these different choices, and then we make, a selection of that choice when we made our decision. But the problem is that we've still got all these like imagination, all these possibilities that could have happened, and they're still there, and we lose out from them, and we miss out on them. So we have this fear that from having choice, we end up with, even when we make the superior choice, we're probably, because of all this baggage with all the other potential realities that didn't happen, we feel a low well-being and like a bit shitted. So basically, when it comes to choice,
Hey! I don't agree.
the only like real idea with choice is to think about, the limitations around choice. So you got all these choices, and all of us have immense potential to be a lot of different things in our lives from here on, and also when we're younger to get us to these points. And basically, you need to figure out what are the actual constraints, because there are constraints, just like there is on like a lot of things in the world. And so you need to figure out what's real and what's actually constrained by either my culture or myself or different things inside of us. Because most people are constrained by themselves. There's no reason why they can't do this or that. And there's no reason why in the past they haven't developed different parts of themselves or whatnot when they wanted to. It's just like your mindset type of thing. But you need to make sure that there are real limitations, right? So there are real. So you're not going to run the 100 meters in 8 seconds. Can guarantee that. But you could climb 7, 8 if you want to, right?
Yes.
And so you just need to figure out like what is real. And unfortunately, I think it's okay here. Well, it's okay here. It's not so much an issue in Sham because we are kind of all from second countries. But a lot of people in their own country, in their own culture, they have a lot of these constraints already like put on top of them and drilled in from a young age, and then of course as they get to our age. Cool, and I think that was it. Thank you very much for coming.